Hey team, back again today with more Facebook Lives. Today I'm going to be going live with Darcia from Beauty in Strength. So Darsh is she's an amazing woman. She has a 1-year-old little girl called Ava. She's a CrossFit coach, athlete, and she also has a business called Beauty in Strength. So I will let her tell you a bit more about that, but I'm just going to add her in so that we can actually talk to her. There she is. Let's add her. Hey,
Hey Shan,
how are you?
so good. How are you?
I'm good. Is that little rabbit asleep?
Well, John literally just got home, so which meant we did like that quick changeover. Like if you
We
can
did
hear
that
like
handball catcher.
seriously, that's live. He messaged me. I'm like, well, I got this at 2. He's like, yeah, I'll make it home by 2, and it was probably like 1:52. So I'm like, do I put it down? Don't I? He finally gets in. We quick changeover, and I can. Did you hear that? I'm like, clearly she's not down for her nap.
But that's okay because right now she's not your problem.
Exactly. I'm just like, oh, cool. You can just put it down. It's one less thing I have to worry about. Otherwise, she would have been like still going in the background. But that's her.
So good. Mum life. Hashtag mum life.
Oh, 100%. Is that sound all good?
So, do you want to just introduce yourself and give everybody a little bit of a spiel about you, kind of who you are, how you got to where you are, and what is Beauty in Strength?
Yeah, 100%. You know what? I always find it funny about this because I always get a bit funny, like just talking about myself. It's like when someone's like, can you talk about you? It's like, oh, what about you? Talk about you first. But anyway, the whole journey and how I got on to Beauty in Strength. So, like nutshell, super nutshell and very brief. I grew up in family domestic violence from a very young age. I wanted to do fitness, knew that I had this career in fitness, however that was going to happen. I just knew that was the path. Studied personal training when I was 16 and I was still in school. As soon as I was old enough or conscious enough to make a choice that I wanted to leave home, I left Dubbo, went to Port Macquarie, worked in gyms, came across CrossFit, and then that's when I came, right into CrossFit. My fitness career and journey kind of just kept snowballing along like that. And obviously Port Macquarie was a step up from Dubbo, but I felt like I still wanted to grow, and moving to a city there was more opportunity, more potential, a lot more coaches, just a lot of opportunity to grow. And I was on this mission from a young age to really break the cycle of domestic violence. But fitness was such a huge part because it's what I use as like a coping mechanism. So the fitness made me feel happy, it made me positive. I was then around positive people. So I'm like, okay, I wanted to keep exploring this fitness journey. Fast track to now living in Queensland. I've been here for 6 years now, heavily involved in CrossFit. So have spent 8 years coaching it. Within that time, I've competed at regionals, also competed at the CrossFit Games. And there was always did PT throughout that, and something was always on my heart to really specialize in women, specialize with women who have experienced domestic violence. And when I wanted to really hone in on creating my own business, the words like beauty, like strength, and like they were words that I used, but I didn't know how to really align with it or align my business with it, because beauty to me was not about what I looked like. And I train my clients to not think about what they look like. It was more about what's actually going on in your life, and like everything else would just happen. Your physical would change. Let's like get to your mindset. So it was using beauty in a way of like, beauty meaning deeper than your skin, and then strength meaning more than your appearance. So stop worrying about your weights, what other people are getting at the gym. It's not about what you look like. Let's go deeper and let's go within. And then I was doing like a bit of a brainstorm marketing thing with a friend. We were just throwing some ideas around, and then Beauty in Strength just came about that way. And I was like, okay, well, what does it actually mean to me, and how can I throw a message out there that is not about what you look like, and I go to the gym because I want to lose weight, or I want the booty program, or I want this.
I want abs.
And the motto has, I want abs. Like all that stuff comes, and you know that happens massively around your food. So beauty in strength, yeah, beauty meaning deeper than your skin, stronger, more than just your appearance. And that really related to obviously clients in the gym, but for women who had gone through a domestic violence situation, that can be related to women in every area of life. It doesn't have to necessarily be related to fitness. It can be related to, you know, as a mother, you know, a single parent, or in your relationship, in your job, like finding the beauty in everything that you do, and having the strength and the inner strength to make those choices that are aligned with what you really want to do in life. So kind of detach from what you look like, the physical appearance, and outside of the gym to how you can actually apply that into your life. And for, I think it's 2 years now since I launched Beauty and Strength, and it just became like a 30-day online fitness program. And I decided to do this because, I fell pregnant, and I knew that obviously I wasn't going to be coaching people and around a lot of people all the time, but I still wanted to stay connected with women and the clients that I had already made. So putting my business online was a way that I could still stay engaged with clients and members and connect with women all over the world. So that's what it became to start with. And then when I fell pregnant, I studied my life coaching course through Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And that's when I also launched Beauty and Strength, like mindset and mentor coaching. So because I'm such a big believer in the physical and the mindset, and the physical was such a big part for me to really break the cycle, I'm like, okay, it's not really, like, truly, if we get deep, it's not about the physical. Yeah. It's really about the mind.
Absolutely.
So that's when I combined beauty and strength with mindset and physical training. And yeah, I've ran mentoring courses really just in the last year since having Ava. And beauty and strength is like bigger now and more about mindset, and the physical, as we all know, it's like the icing on the cake. That is the part to keep us sane and to keep us happy.
Absolutely. You know what? It's really funny. We were away on holidays over the Christmas break. We went away for 2.5 weeks, and it was great. We were at the beach, but I was out of my routine, and also because Grace was there, I just did not get 2 seconds on my own. So I didn't have that time to put into, firstly, I like being by myself. Like, I really like being by myself. So having a kid, that's tough with that too, because you don't get time by yourself usually. But I found that I didn't have any sort of consistent exercise. So, you know, we'd go to the beach every day and we'd play. But for me, I couldn't work out. I was getting shittier and shittier, and my mood was just getting, I was just getting bitchy and cranky and snappy, and I couldn't work out what it was until John said one day, I'll just take Grace for a walk. I'm like, I think I need to do some exercise. And he's like, yeah, I kind of think you do. And it wasn't because I felt like I need to have a bikini body, because you just put a bikini on your body and you've got a bikini body. It was because I just needed that 20 minutes of endorphins, and I needed all of those happy things to be floating around in my head. And I was like a different person. After that, it was all about, oh my God, I feel happier. I have more patience for everybody. It was just so much easier.
100%. I don't, when people get that, they more use it for a healthy way rather than to attach it to something externally, which they're trying to fill a void really from something else.
Yeah.
And when you can really flip that and go, this is just a part of my life. This is the way I live. This is how I build relationships, how I connect with people, and it makes you feel good. So if people can really understand that it is more to do with their living and their part of the life rather than like an external void, then you'll just have so much more fun with it. Like, training doesn't become a chore.
Yes.
Or hard, or like 6-week challenge, 8-week challenge, 10-week challenge, and then it, like, what happens after that? Like, if mentally you can just go, this is my life, this is how I train, I move, like, and just move, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, yeah, I was in CrossFit for so many years, and like I do love it. It's brought so much into my life, but I don't preach it in a way of like you have to do this or you have to do that to get results. It's like you got to find something that really works for you, your lifestyle, your relationship, your environment, and just move. Yeah. Like, and it doesn't have to be an hour session. It can be 7 minutes.
Totally. And I think actually that's one of the things I love about CrossFit, and even just, you know, you got to fit it in. So Ava, your little girl Ava's 1. How do you fit movement into your life in that consistent manner that, you know, gives you all those happy endorphins and makes you feel like you're doing what you need to for self-care?
Well, it's really taken us, it took us a good few months to really get to a consistent path where I felt like I was actually getting my consistency back again. And prior to pregnancy, going from training like competitively or twice a day to that really drawn away from me, I really, you know, I don't want to use the words like lost myself, but I kind of just fell off my routine or path because that was such a big part of my life. And just our scenario in life, like with John and I, he had a job change, newborn baby, and then I've started beauty and strength. So I wouldn't recommend to do all that at once. So there was a lot of
you should have moved house as well.
We did.
No.
Oh yes, we did. She was 8 weeks old. I'm just like, oh my god, is this like, what else is God or universe going to throw at us? We're ready for a challenge. We don't do anything in halves, clearly. No. So at the start, I probably didn't get to the gym until she was probably about 3 months. So I did a lot at home, and like that was the beauty of the beauty and strength workouts. Like it does not, you don't need a gym, you don't need a barbell, you don't need dumbbells, you don't need a kettlebell, all that stuff. Like you literally just use your body. And obviously in those early stages, it's a lot of pelvic floor and stretching and listening to the body anyhow. And like we're very fortunate with John's work and the way our life is set up that I'm able to take Ava into the gym on some days where he can look after her for that 30 or 40 minutes that I have where I can just smash out a session. But then I felt there were times where I just wasn't consistent, and that like mentally started to really mess with me because it wasn't so much like, it really wasn't the physical me of what I was getting attached to. It was really my mental. It was like sleep deprivation, looking after a baby, everything's new. John's working crazy hours. Like my mental, like I'm in my head so much, and I just knew when I got in a flow or consistent flow of training, it empowered me again. And those days that I did get those endorphins and did have a couple of days training, I'm like, okay, how can we really map out our life? So we really had to like structure and look at a whole schedule and go, okay, when can you train? How many days can I train? And with beauty and strength, and obviously like I believe in being the leader, so if you got women doing your program, then I'm going to do it too. So I really committed to my program and was just like, okay, like I've got dumbbells at home, I can't find 10 minutes at home to do it. I can't find 5 minutes. So the days where she would nap, I'll just commit to going in the garage and doing a session, and that was probably where I got consistent. Where I really felt I got consistent back with like my strength training, because I feel that's so important as well. Like body weight and all that is important, can take you so far. But because what I was doing prior, I'm like, I needed to squat, I needed to feel like I was lifting weight, because that's what made me feel strong. And I don't reckon I was actually consistent in the gym until she was about 6 to 8 months old. And I mean like squatting consistently, lifting a barbell consistency. And I just had to prioritize it. And it was a non-negotiable that I had to say to myself, and in our relationship, like, hey, this has now become a non-negotiable. I have to really prioritize this, not because I want to get back quick and make that reappearance that everyone talks about.
Get back to your pre-baby body.
Yeah, like not attached to that. It's like I just need to feel good about myself again. And everyone says, you know, when you have a baby, like you become like down the list, and 100% I agree, like I agree to a degree, agree to disagree, but when you're not fulfilling yourself, when you're not training, when you're not feeling good, how can you serve others? How can you give to your relationship if you're not looking after yourself? And I can tell, and I'm fairly intuitive on myself, if I'm not fulfilling that and if I'm not getting that outlet, like, man, I don't even know if I want to be around myself.
I'm exactly the same. I totally understand what you mean. And for me, it's not so much either, you know, I know I can now lift this much weight, or I can do this many push-ups, or I can do this many double unders. It's more about having consistency and routine, and I like routine. I like structure. It makes me feel like I have some sort of control.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know how my day's going. I need to know what time you're going to be home. Can you message me so I can, like, plan what time I'm going to go into the gym?
Absolutely.
And around her naps.
Yes, exactly. So I guess on that, someone asked a question about, do you have a morning or evening or daily ritual? Do you have any things that you do every single day that you feel like set you up for the day, or give you that consistency, or give you that routine?
100%. So I'd say I've been in and out of this over the last 12 months just because of life, and not because of Ava, but just life happening. I found myself, when I wasn't in consistent training, then the mindset does start to spiral, and then you create that ripple effect, and it feels down and down and down. So reading is such a big part of my life, like personal development books, could be anything on life, business, relationships. And because I do spend time at home, like, prioritize reading. So instead of reading the night before, I would, so John's up just before 4 every morning anyway. I would wake up around 5 or 5:30 and commit to start my day with reading. Yeah. And that just put me in a mindset of achievement for the day, and not touching my phone straight away. And I would do that just because if Ava was up during the night, you know, you lack of sleep, and this is your story, you fall victim to the story. I'm tired, I haven't slept, I'm feeling a bit shitty, I haven't trained. You don't wake up as inspired. So you will just go to your phone straight away, or you will just kind of lag out of bed a little bit. So I have been doing this consistently for the last couple of months now, is not touch my phone for the first hour. Pick up a book instead. At the moment, I'm reading the Crush It, Gary Vee. And that has just kind of, wouldn't say changed my mindset, but just sparked a bit of energy for the day. Yeah. So that's how I would start my day. It would be start with reading, and I change into reading or meditation. So there's a Joe Dispenza meditation app that I also use, and listening to it before bed, and then in the morning kind of like sets your delta waves and stuff for the day. So I would start with that and then start the day. But I'm really feeling the reading has kind of sparked a bit of light in me, because I'm my own motivator. I've got my business, like my home is my everything. Like, it's my business, it's my relationship, it's my play with Ava, it is everything. It's cleaning. So I'm like, how do I get the most out of my day with where I'm going to spend most of the day? Yeah, I go out and about and I have PTs and take a class, but most of my time I need to start it successfully. Yep. One thing that used to trigger me was if I ever had to get up to, not like a messy kitchen or like heaps of dishes, but if there was a few things in the kitchen sink, I'd just get the shits. Because I'd feel like when I come downstairs, like I fed Ava, I've come downstairs, I just want to start fresh. Yeah. And if I have to come down to like some dishes in the sink, I feel like that's how I'm starting my day, cleaning shitty dishes. Yeah. And I had to really change that. So even if I had to be up till 10:30 sometimes doing the dishes, I would prefer to do that than wake up to a messy sink, because not long after I then have to get her brekkie ready, yeah, or my brekkie ready, and then there's more dishes. Yeah. And then it makes you feel like more and more and more, and it made me feel like I wasn't achieving. Or, you know, attacking my day. So that was a big thing for me, and I made a huge switch into like a clean kitchen, no dishes, make sure I read, do not touch my phone for the first hour, because even though you consciously go like, oh, I'm not comparing my life to them, on a subconscious, it's like your subconscious is taking in how other people's lives are being lived.
Absolutely.
And whether you like consciously in that moment go, oh, look at their life, or they're up training, or they're going to do that.
You probably look at my life and think, oh, look at that, it's 5 a.m. and her kid's clipping toilet paper into her hair. Jealous.
Yeah. Yes.
And you'd be right to be jealous because, you know,
Yeah.
it's not at hairdresser level yet, so you'll get there.
100%. So it's like I don't want any kind of trigger starting my day, because if that then goes into 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I haven't got much done because subconsciously there's been triggers, that's not taking control of my life, and that's not taking ownership. So no phones, read a book. That would be like my ritual and how I want to start day. And also intentions. So what's my intention for the day? Yeah. I want to make sure that I've got this, this, and this. Or my intention is, okay, today I'm giving love and gratitude to those around me and whoever I come in contact with. So that'd be big things.
And is that an intention that you write down, or is it just an intention you consciously think about each day?
Bit of both. I've written it down. The reason why I write it down is because I tell my clients to do that. Because if I'm going to preach it, then I need to be living it as well. And it became, I seen the benefit in how it was really helping them. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can learn from that too and start to write it down. And I'll say the times that I felt like I was struggling, and I don't mean like my life's so bad, I struggle heaps, but just when I felt like I wasn't getting consistency in training, or, you know, like down in those little dumpy hills that you have sometimes, like I wrote a script into the things that were triggering me most. So, example, financially, starting a business, doing X amount of hours, you know, wanting to do all these things, like not hitting the financial goals, say, just yet. So, cool, instead of living my victim money story, how can I flip that around and turn it into a positive, so I don't start my day thinking I'm not going to make money, or, you know, this is getting me down and I'm going to let it happen for the rest of the week. Cool. Money loves me. I love money. Money's going to come into my life. I do so many amazing things that it's going to keep attracting money, like blah, 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 blah. So I would read my script every morning as well, to kind of just flip that around and go, get out of your shit story. Your money, my relationship, like we're getting married soon. So I wrote in a present tense that we're already married, how amazing it is, how like happy we are, and it made me feel so good in that moment. So I think attaching to something, if you feel like you're not getting something externally, where we all have to do the work ourselves. Yeah, we've got to do the inner work. We've got to reflect and check ourselves, because no one else is really your problem ever. It's always yourself. So if I'm feeling down about something, why? What's a big thing that's triggering it? Cool, how can you flip that around? Yeah. So I did that. So my intention and my scripts was something that I wrote down, and I felt that really helped as well. But I can change in and out of things of meditation, reading, and then those scripts. Yeah. It would kind of be, what do I feel like I'm just needing in that moment. At the moment, I'm feeling like reading is been a really good way to start my day, so I'll do that. Yeah. If I feel like the scripts is something that I'm needing to really boost up again, I'll do that, because it becomes a habit. Like, it's got to be done over and over and over, and if that's the energy then that you're putting out, then you will get more of that back. Yeah. So the big things would be those ones as to how I'd start the day.
So you talk a lot about breaking the cycle of domestic violence. So you grew up in a house with domestic violence. How did you break that cycle? How did you get out of that situation? And what did that situation look like for you?
So when I was young, so I experienced this. So my parents split up when I was 12. So the years prior to that was, you know, definitely good times, definitely some family times where we went on holidays and we could have a laugh as a family. Like, you know, not all times were bad. But when you're a kid, or when like you even look back as an adult now, you always attach your experience with an emotion. So if most of the emotions were upset, sad, disappointed, anger, fear, then you remember those ones so clearly. overpowering the happy and those happy family ones. So what it looked like back then for me, like, it was very emotional, it was very sad. There was abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and like lots of tears. I don't know what it was inside me, but from a young age, I always felt that I'm breaking the cycle. Like, this isn't how I wanted my future. It's very common to repeat the cycle, like so common, because that's all you know. You're computerized. It's ingrained in you. It's ingrained to be violent, aggressive, insecure. Don't get me wrong, I still had all those things. But the biggest thing that changed for me was definitely fitness. Like, I ran as a child, wanted to be the next Kathy Freeman. 400-meter run was like my race.
You're a little pale.
Yeah, I know. A little pale, but, you know, hey, but I'm part Aboriginal. just more on the pale side.
Just a really fair one.
100%. Like, and honestly, even going to school, classes in Aboriginal, but not the skin color, because, you know, everyone, you know, that's your stereotype. There was a lot of flack about that as well, which is a whole other topic too. So the genes are still there. But running was such a big thing to release how I was feeling internally. Studying personal training, and then I just kind of got to a point where I had an opportunity to get out of Dubbo, and it just felt spiritually and like emotionally everything that this was my opportunity to change my life.
And how old were you?
And when I moved, just turned 17.
Right.
Just turned 17. I had family in Port Macquarie. I was dating a guy who was family friends, and he invited me to Port Macquarie, and I'm just like, yep, I'm doing it. Mum hated it. Obviously not the best decision. I've just met this guy, and now I'm upping my life to Port Macquarie, and I'm 17. What parent is going to agree with that? There was something in me that was just like, you've got to go, you've got to go, you've got to go. So I went, and that relationship probably lasted a few months. And because deep down I knew that this wasn't a long-term thing, it wasn't going to happen, but it was like a ticket out of Dubbo. Sounds bad, but, you know, the things you do.
Yeah.
Port Macquarie felt like it wasn't really working out, and after that I actually packed my bags and I went back to Dubbo. I lasted a day, might have been 2 days. I had an argument with my sister, and it just reminded me of what Dubbo was like, and I'm like, I had to go backwards to go forward. And I made this commitment to myself. I didn't care if I was on the streets or if I had to live in my car, which I stayed in my car one night when I was in Port Macquarie because I didn't have anywhere to go. When I got back to Port Macquarie, I went straight to the gym and was like, hey, I'm back. So I hung out at the gym all day until I just met someone, and he's like, I'll find you somewhere to live. Found somewhere to live. And it was my environment and the people around me that really helped me break that cycle and realize that I wasn't going back. So the owners of the gym started handing me books to read, all personal development books. And I started to internalize and look at my life, what I was brought up in, my behavior, my parents' behavior, my family's behavior, the people that I was hanging around. I kind of just assessed all of that and was like, man, if I don't take control of my life, I'm going down that path, because I held myself so strong and independent, and I trained so hard, because to me that was like an external void that I wanted to prove to my dad that I was strong and I was fit, and if he was going to come into my life, I'm ready for him physically, emotionally, in whatever capacity he was ready to meet me on, I was ready to meet him on. But the owners, like, they showed me how they were happy, and I hadn't experienced much happiness. I said I loved myself, but I didn't really know what love meant. And I started hanging around happy, loving families, and I'm like, wow, they're in a marriage and they're happy. Wow, their kids are happy. So then I just kind of reflected on that and was like, man, I need to change the way I'm thinking. I need to change my attitude. I need to change how I'm viewing the world. And I just became happier and positive, surround myself with happier people. like I was all about positive affirmations just because my head was like, it really was so negative. I had insecurities. I had so much stuff and baggage inside me that I really had to let go, and that was all from my past. And once I just kind of chipped away at that, I was like, I'm so breaking the cycle. And I had visions of like still competing, still having a business, and had this internal drive that I would not go backwards. But environment and people were a big thing for me to keep me on path, because it was so easy to think that way and go back down that cycle.
So when you chose a partner for yourself in John, and even in relationships before that led up to him, were you conscious of choosing somebody who was completely unlike, anyone from your family? Was that a conscious choice, or did you find you were being drawn to people who were more similar to what you'd experienced in the past because that was how you grew up, that was what was familiar to you? Or was that something that you were very much like, I'm so conscious of this, I'm going the opposite end?
Yeah, I was so conscious of it. But so conscious of it in a way of like the abusive side, but things that I'm drawn to in males, and this is just even through males that have come into my life and been like a bit of a father figure or a bit of a leader. They're strong, very strong males, and my dad is exactly like that. Like, he is very strong presence, very strong alpha male, like disciplined, strict. So I was still drawn to those characteristics. But as far as like the character, I was so conscious in like, I am not ever getting involved in anything like that. But guys that I dated, and what I'm drawn to so strongly with John, my fiance, is how strong they are and independent they are as a male, but can also show their vulnerable, loving side. Because a male that can be so alpha male and strong in his presence may not be vulnerable or as loving. And that to me was like my father in that way, like showed love in different ways. But was so conscious in not repeating that. And that's it's not easy. Like, I can proudly say I haven't never been abused by a guy, even emotionally abusive or anything like that. But it's like I, again, made this internal promise that if I ever felt a red flag, in danger, then I'd be out straight away and I'd call it. And still to this day, no matter who it is and in what capacity or role they're in my life, if I feel any kind of, in other words, threat like that, then I can happily take myself out of that situation and go, nah, I don't deserve that. And neither does anyone. No one really deserves that. And again, I always never thought, well, early age, people would ask me, oh, you get married, you have kids. I'm like, you know what, I don't want that. Because I was so traumatized by the upbringing. I always thought families break down, marriages don't work, men are unfaithful, men cheat, men are abusive. Like, they're my stories. So I was like, no, like, no man can control me. I'm Miss Independent. I'll do what I want. Like, that was me. And still, like, a little bit like that. Yeah, just a little bit. But the whole family thing was the whole family thing was something that I wanted to break so much. And I think the biggest success in life is not about money, not about like anything like that, is like a happy, successful family. And to truly break the cycle for me was to create my own family. It wasn't about, I'm going to be a millionaire, because that means breaking the cycle, because now I have money, which caused problems when I was younger. It was like, okay, if I'm truly successful and rich in life, and when I have fully broken that cycle is when I've met the man that I love so dearly, and we're going to start a family, and we are on that mission together. It's not just me, but he knows my past, he understands, he gets it, and we are a team going through life. And John, we're so on that same path together and just fully gets it. And he's got his own story too, where we connect so well on that. and I would do anything in my power in past relationships where I wouldn't fall pregnant just for the sake of it. I wouldn't lead a guy on to think like he's with me forever. I wouldn't push engagement or anything like that, because I think someone who's gone through like some form of abuse like that, once you know, you know. And when you know they're not the right ones, you will self-sabotage to get out of it. And that's what I did over and over. I self-sabotaged till I grew the confidence to go, no, this isn't working, I'm out. But once you know that you truly love someone, you will, I don't know, it just flipped. When I met John, it was like I knew that we were destined for each other, and I was like, oh my God, like I would marry you now and I want to start a family with you. It was just something inside.
And he's like, stage 10 clinger, stage 10 clinger.
Yeah. He's like, holy shit, keep away.
He's like, that bitch.
But he was the same. But he was the same. So it was like, oh my God, what are we doing here?
Do you want to get married tomorrow? Should we just...
No.
So you said then that when people are in, you know, these toxic relationships where there's abuse, mental, physical, emotional, they'll self-sabotage the relationship. So why do people in domestic violence situations, or even just in a relationship where there's any sort of emotional abuse, gaslighting, narcissism, all of that sort of shit, why do they stay? Why are they still there? And I'm not judging that, because I have definitely dated people where I knew they were fucking toxic, horrendous human beings, and I was still there because there's, I don't know, short circuit. But why does that happen? Why do they stay? Why do we stay?
Yeah, massive one is fear. Like the fear of being alone, the fear of the unknown. And it depends how that other person, perpetrator, or the other person, like in the relationship. And, you know, I only speak on domestic violence, they're very manipulative. So once they change and trigger your mindset, you can start to feel like you're reliant, and that you need that person financially. And when kids are involved, like whole other topic again, but that makes it a lot harder. And women can definitely stay just because of the kids are involved, and they would rather cop the abuse than see what might potentially happen if they were separated. Financially, it's a massive one. They can manipulate them so much where they don't have a job anymore. They're on no payments. They can't get any help from parents. They support them, like wherever they got to go. They fear so much of being alone. Big thing obviously is like if they are repeated the cycle, like what their past was, what their upbringing was like, if their parents were in the same or a similar situation, they can definitely just see how their mum responded in situations or how the father responded in situations, and feel that like that's just their level of worth. A big thing is like how you value yourself and how your own self-worth is. Because if we don't have that higher value of our worth, then we are happy or content in putting up with that. And I say fear in a way of the massive one is fear of being alone.
Yeah.
Because if women, men as well, you know, it's not just women, have felt alone in past relationships or just in life in general, when someone is their rock, who they, you know, I say that so freely. No, well, you said earlier you're so happy to be on your own, and I think being on your own is so important before you get into a relationship, because you know your own worth, you know your own value. You can be on your own. You don't need other people telling you you're beautiful, you're amazing, I need you, you're pretty, you look gorgeous in that. Like, we don't need that external validation. So knowing your own worth and your own value is so important, because if you don't know that, then that is where we will stay in those relationships. Because when it happens once, oh, but he told me he loved me. It was a mistake. It wasn't as bad as last time. Well, at least he didn't do this, or at least she didn't do that. you justify your reasons to stay. And when someone's power and energy is so overpowering, it belittles you where you've got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So they stay for comfort, feeling like they're loved. If they feel like there's no connection with their parents or friends that they've got to turn to, if this one person tells me that he loves me, then he loves me.
Yeah.
And when you're in it, you don't really see what's really going on.
Yeah.
Until, I don't want to say until it gets a near death or until it gets worse, but when women are in those situations, this is why I think training's so important, because whatever you're doing, it just builds a bit of confidence in you and a bit of self-worth.
Yeah.
You train, you start to feel strong, you go, oh wow, like I am strong, or oh, I'm not so weak, because that internal dialogue is listening.
Yeah.
And if we're constantly saying, oh, I'm weak, he makes me feel weak, or I'm not strong, that girl's better than me, guess what? Like that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's why women can stay in those situations too.
Yeah. So with Ava, obviously having a little girl, you would be acutely aware of what she is exposed to, what she is going to grow up thinking a functional relationship looks like. And I don't know, is there anything in particular that you're, very conscious of, or things that you think, I'm going to teach her X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, 100%. I do think about this a lot because becoming a mum from that background, there's so many triggers around it. Because, when I was a teenager, I was like the most raging teenager. Like I repeated everything that I saw. Like I punched holes in the walls. I abused my sisters. Mum would say, get out in the backyard. I had so much anger like built up in me, and like I've dealt with that and worked through it. Like it's not an issue whatsoever today. But I go like there is little triggers around that mother-daughter connection relationship, what I felt about my mum when I was younger and all that. And obviously the mission from a very young age was to break the cycle. Whenever I had kids, they were just going to get so much love and so much support, and just be in this healthy, loving environment. But I'm also aware that to still authentically do that, because when you are wanting to break something so bad, you can kind of overcompensate, which can also like go down the opposite side as well. But what it means for us and for her environment is to emotionally be loved. Not like physically, yes, like give her cuddles, tell her that we love her, and like don't get me wrong, she gets that all the time, but emotionally be there for her. Because I think, when I look back as kids, the big thing was the emotional connection, like actually feeling like she can come to me and talk to me about anything. Like I felt embarrassed or weak or held so much emotion in me as a young girl to not have that conversation with my mum or with my dad. And now, even if I were to have a conversation with my mum, she could say in those scenarios, well, you could have. And I could go, well, how could you provide me that space, which allowed me to move into that, to tell you how I was feeling or to fully express myself. So I have learned that, and I go, okay, how can I provide a space for Ava to come to me where I'm so vulnerable, and she can say, hey, I'm struggling with this at the moment. So the big thing for me is more the emotional support that I want her to feel, and that we are there for her 110% from that emotional aspect. And we have such great people around us who will give her like so many different energies that won't just be from us, but will also empower her to still be independent, still be strong, still hold herself well, and not feel like she really like needs us and can't do life without us. So it's being able to guide her along a path to teach her love, emotional connection, speaking about your emotions, reaching out to other people. Doesn't always have to be to us. We've got other people that are godparents and father figures and really close friends who can feel those family things as well. And I think like John and I, we're on the same page about that as well. So, and who's to say, she won't ever experience anything like, obviously, like that'd be a worst nightmare. But to, God forbid, if anything did happen, set up a platform that she kind of knows how to respond in situations in life, like real life stuff. Like actually teach her like street smarts. Like I didn't grow up on the streets, but we knew what the street language was, and John definitely does. And like tapping into your intuition, like listening to that because it knows. So that would be a big thing that we'd work on together as a team to provide her that platform, especially on emotional connection. But don't get me wrong, like there's definitely been triggers because a lot of stuff comes in and it's like, am I going to be a good mom? Am I actually going to break the cycle? Am I going to be the one that I've said my whole life to actually do that? What if you don't? How are you going to feel towards that? Am I going to feel like I've completely failed at life? So there's definitely a lot in there that I don't put my whole focus on that because I like to live in the moment. But, when my life has been driven by this breaking the cycle, I've got to be prepared for things to happen. That is out of my control.
Because that's a lot of pressure. Like that's a lot of pressure for you to put on yourself to
100%.
be that.
100%, and probably through, say, life, but when I first started this journey of healing myself, really, I was like 17. The common feedback that I got from like mentors and just people in life was, you're way too hard on yourself. Don't be so caught up in change. Like you're missing the moments of life. And I know if that just becomes like, my dad was very hard on me, very, very hard. Like I'm one of 4 girls. I was the most disciplined. I was the most like flogged the most, brought in line the most. And I don't know if that just comes from how I was like treated in a way. So I'm like, had to be better, wasn't good enough, had to be better, needed to achieve, needed to do this. Like we were always in bed at 7:30 every single night, and if we weren't, man, you got your ass flogged. So that is kind of like just carried along my life. But when that's a constant feedback from someone, it's like, okay, you can't live up to that all the time. Use it in a healthy way. And when you put so much pressure on something, what ends up happening, it bursts and breaks. So even though there is this big drive to break the cycle, it's changing my language. So even the words I just used then, to break the cycle, that cycle's broken. But if that's the story I'm going to keep telling myself, then you're going to keep being presented with the challenges that come with it. So you're living it, you are it. People are inspired by it, and you are helping women in that space. You are the mother, you do have that, you got the family, like you actually have everything you've got. And I'm saying this because this is just coming through me right now. Almost makes me emotional because it's so authentic. But you are there. Like there is no other like broken thing that you need to do.
So it's achieved. Like really the goal is achieved. You broke the cycle. You chose a great man. You have a beautiful baby. You're a loving, caring mum who is incredibly self-aware and incredibly emotionally intelligent. And it's funny because she's going to be your daughter because Grace is mine, and she is crazy and feisty, and it's very easy, and it was very easy for me to kind of go, it's going to be so calm, I'm going to be so chill, when she's losing her shit and being a complete asshole of a child. I'm not going to lose my shit. I'm just not. Mate, I lose my shit all the time. Patient,
Yeah.
patient, I'm patient. Okay, now I've lost my shit and I'm just
Fucking
like,
done.
the neighbours are probably calling docs.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, she's just started chucking tantrums in the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
And I'm like, oh, like this is already 12 months. And this is just the beginning.
But at least she's still small enough to like pick her up and just, you know, like put
Yeah.
her somewhere. When they're like 4 and like a man child like G, they just firstly they just go boneless. Like it's like I have no bones left in my body. I'm just gonna go boneless on you. So you can't actually pick me up and I'll flail with all the limbs. And even the other day, what did she say? She's like, I hate you, you're not my mum anymore. And I was like,
Oh my god.
why would you say that? That is a terrible thing to say. And where did you even hear that? And don't be so mean.
Yeah. So where does that even come from?
I don't know. I think movies or TV shows or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because the other day she said something like,
And they're
you
not
don't
getting
even
their
know
way,
me.
like that's their way to express. Yeah.
Yeah, so she told me the other day I didn't even know her. And I think that's from Frozen or something, or Moana, like you don't even know me. And I was like,
Yeah.
go to your room.
Oh my god, it was so fun. Yeah.
Go to your room,
But it's
mate, or
hard
you're
to,
about
like-
to get to know me real well.
Yeah, true. I love that. It's so true.
Far out, they're wild. So, just to finish off, you're clearly somebody who's very used to achieving a lot. Like, you've left home at 17 and you've totally transformed your life into something completely different to what it could have been like. What do you think is the most difficult thing that you've found since having a baby? Because obviously you've been subjected to so many challenging things to this point.
Yeah. Okay, to really the biggest challenge.
Or even just shit that you didn't know. Like things that you just think, why didn't anyone tell me about this?
Yeah, well, just how full on it is, for one. Like it's and okay, you hear friends speak about it all the time, but it's with anything in life, you never know the impact until you've actually experienced it. And since having her, I think the biggest shift has just been, like, you know, if I'm speaking honest and going depth level, I like the identity shift, just from the freedom of your life and just life in general, like being able to do whatever you want, train whenever you want. And Rach, a really good friend of mine, helped me with this transition because my journey was driven out of to break the cycle, to change and to better myself and to not fall back in that. But something I wanted so bad was to have a loving family, and I've got all that. But in that shift of going like, holy shit, this is my life now. I'm now a mum, and I'm not able to just pack up and go here or go there, and there's this baby attached to me all the time. I really went to that place of, because this is just me, a self-reflection person. What is it that's really triggering me? What is it that is this shift? Because, and I don't know if it's just because I am so honest with where I'm at and how I talk, and I'm always like, I think figuring out yourself is the biggest discovery in life as well, because then you can have better relationships, connect with a lot of people, and really draw in what you want to in your life. It was like, hey, what is it that's really triggering me about this? I came from the background of being around people all the time, coaching classes where I'd be in front of 30 odd people, like just the average. And I'm such a social person. Like, they fulfilled me. They made me feel good. They stroked my ego. Like, I looked after them. I had that connection with people. And the like the competition and all that, I was still connecting to the identity of Darcia the CrossFitter. I didn't allow myself to move into the space of I'm a new mum now, and that's a huge, like, that's the biggest job in life. The biggest job, the biggest full-time job in
Worst
life.
pay,
And if
though.
that's
Absolute worst pay.
oh, let's not even start with that. If we'd actually worked that out, like down to the dollars for the hour, and that was the biggest shift for me. Was it really was the whole identity. And every time I attached to, I was Darcia the ex, I'm still connecting to that past and still seeking that validation. So I then shifted that into, okay, how am I going to be? Who do I want to be as mum? How do I see myself as mum? How am I going to be a leader in this space? And that opened up so much more acceptance to myself in, like, yeah, wow, look at the journey. And now look at the journey. And life now is going to open up so much more because I had gone through all of that. And I've always said to people and my clients that whatever you choosing to do, they're labels. It's just a label that you're attaching to. CrossFit isn't the be all end all. I competed because I loved it. I thrived off it and I did well at it. It didn't become like the everything of life. But then when you were out of it, it was like, wow, that was such a big part of my life. I'm now inside, closed doors. This is my life. So the biggest shift was definitely around identity. But once I was able to detach from the story and the past person that I was, I then just, again, took that pressure off myself and was like, hey, like, this is where I'm at now. Embrace, enjoy, soak it all up, because 12 months or 2 years' time, it is going to be different. And then you'd probably be wanting this time back because you've got time to do the things that you want to focus on. So anyone kind of in that situation is understanding and knowing that where you're at is where you're at. We made a choice to have a baby. We said it was going to be challenging. I knew financially was going, like, it takes a bit of a dip. Like, you know these things, but then it shocks you massively in the moment because it's not that you weren't prepared for that. It's all your other triggers that are coming up out of it. So the biggest challenge was moving from that shift and then just actually realizing how full on it is. It's 24/7.
Yeah. So do you think, though, if anyone actually told you how hard it is, you would believe them? Because I don't think I would. Like, I think I went into this journey of motherhood thinking, totally got my shit together. Like, I achieve a lot of things in a day, plus more. I'm that type A personality. Like, I have totally got this. And
yeah.
even, and I don't really think people talk enough about how fucking hard it is. But I think even if they did, I don't think I would have believed them. I think I would have just sort of gone, totally got this.
I got this.
I totally don't got this.
100%. Yeah. And actually that was what I was saying before is when I was going through that shift, or like speaking so honestly and how tough it is, they weren't like the common conversations babies or people like to say, like, oh, it's not so many areas. Also, another big challenge is like your relationship. Like, yeah, you still love each other and you're still supporting each other, but now you're putting all this love into this one child, and your relationship and each other just aren't the priority anymore because you're putting all this love in to the child, which is all good. But you know, we've definitely sat down and had conversations around, okay, how are we prioritizing us this week? Is this serving us in our relationship, or is this serving people at the gym? Is this serving Ava? Is this serving XYZ? Because I'm not sure if people are actually honest to say your relationship gets challenged in a different way. Like, you don't stop loving them, it's just becomes it's a challenge. And there's friends and people that I know where relationships can really go either way after, because like all your shit's brought up as well. Like, you got to make sure you're on the same page about things. You got to over communicate. You got to, like, oh, I didn't know we were going to do that. Oh, well, I thought we were. Okay, did you have that conversation? So get it out of your own head, get out of your own way, communicate with your partner with how you want to parent, or how you want to do things. Prioritize your relationship so you're both feeling fulfilled and, you know, speaking each other's love language there, because then you're able to provide that space for your child to grow in that loving and connected environment. And again, I connect that to the DV, because if I'm not looking after our energy together in our relationship, then that cycle creeps back in. And then you get distant, and then you go, well, fuck this, I may as well do it on my own because I'm independent and I can do this shit. So I think a big thing is relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can totally understand why people get distant as well, because especially when you've got this new baby, firstly, you're functioning on a really small amount of sleep. You've got this other human attached to you all of the time, and your partner comes home and you're like, nothing left, nothing. I've got nothing physically left. I have got nothing emotionally left. I just need to go to sleep. Please don't speak to me.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And then being able to say that where they're not getting offended or like on a conflict level, and knowing what the other triggers are.
And I think as well, no matter how good you are at communicating, and there are some wonderful husbands, partners, men out there in the world who are incredibly supportive and incredibly nurturing and incredibly understanding, but on no level, unless you've actually given birth to a baby, can you understand what that is like how emotionally and physically and mentally taxing that is on a human being. You can empathize as much as you like, but you can actually just never understand.
100%. 100%. I reckon I cried for the first 6 weeks every day, at the drop of a hat over anything. And guys in those instances, they're the provider, they're the protector, they're the fixer of everything. But the female emotional side is like, I don't even know. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I feel like. You just want to be held or hugged and not said anything. But then oh, you're not telling me what you want. Well, I don't know what I want. Well, how can I help you? I don't need you to help me. So you just go back and forth 10,000 times because it is so emotional. And you're like, oh, well, you just won't get it because physiologically you just don't get it.
And also you've had more than 2 hours of sleep in the last 24-hour period of time. So unless you go into some sort of torture camp where you go through this sleep deprivation, you cannot understand why I'm a crazy person.
100%. Yeah, crazy person is validated, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it is tough. I would say that's been motherhood and, that the new way of just learning and that new way of actually communicating with your partner. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, amongst the DV, amongst training, amongst everything, because you're so vulnerable in those states, and now you're choosing to look after a human being with someone else. I think that's the biggest challenge, but also exciting at the same time. We try and flip the positive and go, okay, well, wow, look at what we've created. How beautiful we can see life being created every day. I think that's a beautiful thing. And try not to put the stresses.
And I think it's easy to sometimes just dwell on how challenging it is to be a parent, but God, when you look around, and I have had so many friends in this same position, and I was in that position for a really long time, where all I wanted to do was have a baby, and I couldn't. And when you actually can, you realize how lucky you are and how grateful you really should be for the fact that you have this incredible gift of this human that you get to spend time with and shape and mold and all that sort of stuff. And there's so many people out there who would give anything for that gift. They would give anything for
100%.
it.
Yeah. It is so true, hey. And it really is the gift of life.
Yeah.
And in those frantic days or states that I have, I'm just pull yourself out of that. Look at what you've got. Look how happy she is. Look how healthy she is. You're so fortunate.
Yeah.
And perspective is everything.
So we'll touch base again on this conversation when Ave is about 4.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's Grace's age now.
And if she's anything like
I'm sure
me,
there's probably going to be lots of phone calls.
Yeah, if she's anything like G, you'll be sitting there thinking she's either going to be leading a company or a gang in prison, and I'm not really sure which.
Oh my god,
Hopefully
so
the
true.
former.
Yes, it could. Oh man, with her, you just don't even know. Like, and with our background and even our cultures, like I take all that into account too. Like, she's gonna be a fiery little girl, and I don't know. I'll bring that discipline in. You know what I'm like. Discipline.
But you know what?
Until
She
she
could
flips
totally
it around on
surprise
me.
you and just be a total Zen master. She could just be totally walking around, just totally
Like,
Zen.
go and meditate. Go and meditate on your thoughts, and then come back to me.
Yeah. Oh, far out.
Oh,
So funny.
God.
All right, Josh, we might leave it there. Thank you so much. That's been awesome.
Awesome, Shan. So good.
We'll do it
Thanks so
again.
much for having me on. I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Okay.